Welcome to Night Shift. Jeff Sharon here with you, back after a couple weeks on the shelf because the holidays are crazy and, whatever. Props to Kyle Nash, student of the game, for filling in for me. We got Nick in the house. We got Bryson in the house. We got a lot to talk about here. This is our last regular show before Christmas. We're going to preview Gasparilla Bowl for you. We got to catch up on hoops. Got a special guest for you today, Abby Hansen of UCF Volleyball, formerly of UCF Volleyball, now playing for the Orlando Valkyries, the Pro Volleyball Federation franchise that will start play in January. In addition, Financial Arena, an unbelievably cheery person to have on during the holidays, as you'll see in our show. So with thanks to Abby on that, and then also we got some men's soccer news to talk about with the MLS Super Draft, and we will wrap our pre-Christmas regular shows with our Christmas list as well. So let's go ahead and get started, fellas. We got, all right, Friday. We're recording this on Wednesday, a little bit more than 40 hours away from the Gasparilla Bowl, 6 p.m. on Friday, UCF against Georgia Tech. 6-6 against 6-6. I think a lot of people nationally are going to look at that and be like, well, whatever. But this is a couple things. There are some things at stake here, Kyle. Number one, I think it's a good feather in your cap to finish for UCF to finish the first season in the Big 12 above 500 with a bowl win. Mm-hmm. All right. Number two, beating an ACC team, and we can talk about what may happen with the ACC or not, based on Florida State and all of their boosters screaming and yelling yet again. Surprise, surprise. I think this is I'm still naive about bowl season. I think it always feels better to go into the offseason with a bowl win than a bowl loss. Regardless of your record, 6-7 v 7-6. You want to head into that, you want to know that the extra practice paid off. And I don't know, it just adds a little bit different seasoning to the off season, if you will, if I can use a food metaphor, which I'm usually pretty good at. Kyle, am I a little too naive on this?
No, I mean, listen, I'll quote it this way. Like, there may have been days where UCF is in a bowl game situation where it's very similar to the Olympics, where the honor is just taking part. And there is an element of that depending on the bowl in question. This is not that, right? There is no place where a Gasparilla Bowl loss is something that the fans will take and be okay with, especially when it's against a team like Georgia Tech that is not, well, all that great. And just look at the bowl last year. With UCF losing to Duke and having all the injury situations and availability situations that they did, and the expectation was still for them to win, even though those of us here on the Night Shift podcast said, well, that may not go as well as you hope, people. But all the above to say, yeah, that preparation concept that you're talking about, the extra practices, every coach will tell you that, even the G5 coaches who were at the Cure Bowl over there at FBC rather, Mortgage Stadium, for UCF's first hosting of a bowl game on their campus. So there's a lot of truth to that there. There's a good feather in the cap, and that's UCF was supposed to fail according to the national media, right? That did not happen here. Did we succeed as much as some other fans would like, including our good friend Eric Lopez? Maybe not, but it could have gone worse concept is there, especially with how the linebacker class kind of turned out this year, so.
John Rice Plumlee will play. You guys have heard from the coaching staff this week, and we'll bring Nick in here in a second, but UCF has a 4.5 point favorite in this game. Has not really been hit by transfers. I mean, there have been a few, Corey Thornton most notably, but the transfer portal situation has not quite hit UCF as badly as one may think. or at least as far as other schools have been hit, right? So they should have a fairly full complement, a few guys notwithstanding.
Yeah, no, that's a strong take too. Now, granted, the future of some is certainly uncertain. Maybe they're still at the negotiating table as we have the college football version of free agency going on right now. But I think the best thing about playing in a bowl game like this is, at least in the opinion of the players and their people and the team, they have an opportunity to show out and look good. I think that, for example, like, let's take a John Rice Plumlee or even a Ricky Barber, for example, right? They need to show out that we've been injured throughout the year. This is the healthiest we've been. This is what we can look like on a big stage. Mm-hmm. And that's the kind of stuff that improves draft stock. Now, granted, I can't speak for John Rice Plumlee and his future in baseball and all that. I know that's up in the air, although the smart money, based on the tea leaves, is that he won't be playing for UCF anymore. If he can at least get some film to show off how good of an athlete he is, that too will help should he decide to go the baseball direction. That being said, what little bit of scuttlebutt is out there, the MLB doesn't look to be in the cards necessarily for John Rice Plumlee. But yeah, for a game like this, I think the big thing for the older players or the guys that might be in the portal is to show out, to get good draft highlight film, or this day and age now more than ever, to get good highlight film for the next round of portal action to see, to impress other schools.
Nick, you've been following the we're going to the press conferences this week as UCF has been getting ready for this game. What is your sense from the coaches and the players about about how they're feeling coming into this game? They have plenty of time off, so a chance to rest up some lingering injuries. I know that's especially the case with John Rice Plumlee and a couple other guys too. What's been your sense based on what's been being talked about the team heading in?
Motivated. They all said it when I talked to them. They feel really motivated. Coach Malzahn pointed out, normally whoever wins these games comes down to who cares the most. And they sound like they care. I don't know if that has to do with the location, knowing that a lot of UCF fans can come down since it's like I say short, but I-4 traffic, not that short drive.
Fair.
Yep. Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah. No, they actually, side note, they can relate because when I was supposed to talk to them a lot earlier yesterday, but the press conference got delayed because one of their buses tire popped.
Oh, God.
Oh, that'll do it.
Yep. So they had to get a new one. Everyone is safe. Everyone's fine, which is good because Coach Malzahn also pointed out that everyone is healthy. He says JRP looks the healthiest he's seen him all season, which is really good. JRP says, he's still trying to work out some kinks, but he feels good overall. So sounds like, yeah, like Kyle said, this is probably the healthiest the team is going to be all year, besides maybe the start of the season. And, they all just kind of emphasized how important this game is for them to, finish off on a winning record. In the case of people like JRP or all the seniors, to finish off their career in general with a win and to help build for the future.
Yeah. Kyle, I want to get your word on Georgia Tech, at least as of right now. Yes, they finished 6-6. Unlike UCF, they finished above 500 in the conference in the ACC. They finished 5-3. UCF finished 3-6. But obviously a season like that, there's going to be some ups and downs. And there are a lot of familiar faces out there as well for Georgia Tech. And most notably the guy at the top of the chain, Brent Key, who, as we all know, very, very famously was a key member of UCF's coaching staff under George O'Leary, was the offensive coordinator the year that everything fell apart in 2015, but was nearly the successor to George O'Leary as the head coach here. Well, he ended up going back to his alma mater, Georgia Tech, took over at least on an interim basis last year after Georgia Tech fired Jeff Collins, who was another former UCF coach. Key gets promoted to head coach. He's done a pretty good job since then. Got into a bowl game for the first time. What's the sense on Georgia Tech from what you've been able to see?
Yeah, just as an just looking through their performance too on the season to kind of get a handle on it, like they have a baffling loss to Bowling Green on there. That's a little confusing, but for the most part, beyond that, it was a season where they won the games that you feel like they should have won. and lost the games.
He also stole that game in Miami thanks to Mario Cristobal, by the way.
I was going to bring that up. Yeah. So, I mean, there's I'm not going to say fool's gold, but let's just say if you look at just their schedule, it's easy to underestimate them. But I'll put it this way. Key has obviously seen enough film to know how to attack UCF. Defensively, at least. So long as Addison Williams does his thing, takes the lessons he's learned and applies help in the run game from the defensive backs, that should work pretty well. And we'll say this, talking to the players that they brought out on Monday, specifically to Ricky Barber and Tremont Morris-Brash, the way that he changed his approach from the start of the year to the end, to getting more hands-on, to coming down on the field. Ricky Barber said it made a world of difference from him. And that's, by the way, coming from a D tackle where Addison Williams, like natural position, he came from being the DB coach. Hearing that from a D tackle, that he was more hands-on and more involved, is a very interesting concept from a guy who's playing at a spot that's further away from Addison Williams' presumed specialty. Still seeing that impact is huge. So like I said, there's a lot of lessons learned by Addison Williams. I think they'll be able to do pretty well with whatever's thrown at them. Offensively, it's a lot more of a guess, Jeff, because we've mentioned health and all this and how John Rice Plumlee's ability to run and play has had to do with things, not to mention turnover on the offensive line. I'd be curious to hear Gus's opinion on how he feels about the performance of his line, despite never really having an established, air quotes, front on offense. That would be interesting. But yeah, I think they're good in the most important places. Ricky Barber will go on and on about how the rest of his defensive tackle core carried the team during the year while he was out. And I think it's UCF's ability to do well in the trenches, which was a relative weakness last year, why they lost to Duke, right? Yeah. But I think it's their strength in the trenches that will at the very least make this competitive, if not a comfortable win.
4.5 is the spread, Kyle. Fair? UCF is the favorite.
Yeah, that's how I put it. At the very least, based, like, if you want to call it a home field advantage too, I suppose some odds maker there would argue whether or not you give them 2 or 3 points.
I was going to say, is it how much does that play into it?
Yeah, it obviously is a factor if anybody's worth their salt. I feel like this is a scenario where whoever's making that line isn't sure what to make of UCF in Power 5 play. And if you look at their schedule, if you haven't been covering the team last year, that would be a confusing thing to observe. Like, wait, you did this against Kansas, and then you did this against Oklahoma State. Which team are you? And whatever that is, we won't really know either until Saturday.
Yeah. That's the one thing about bowl games, and I think that this is the part that's kind of interesting the most, and we'll wrap it up here on this, is we really don't know what we're going to get. We don't know what we're going to see from Georgia Tech. We more or less know what we're going to see from UCF. But I guess my last question to you, Kyle, here before we move on from the bowl game is, if you're Gus, what's the plan of attack here? Is it are there places where Georgia Tech is particularly soft on the underbelly that you could probably exploit?
My assumption is that they haven't seen athletes that can do things that John Rice Plumlee can do. My assumption is they haven't seen athletes that can do things Xavier Townsend can do. Sure, they've seen good receivers like you might see in Kobe Hudson and Javon Baker and all that, but are they prepared for these speed guys that are versatile in their craft, and are they prepared for another versatile guy in officially departing senior, Alec Haller?
We have to make that clear now after all that this week, right?
But yeah, right, exactly. I mean, excellent troll by him. It fooled the entire press room on Monday for what it's worth. But yeah, I'm not sure they're ready to expect what he does in the run game throwing blocks. I mean, listen, the guy his size, in my playing days, a guy his size, he's one of the ones I would be more afraid of than even a guy giving up 50 pounds to, because I don't necessarily see him coming. He's so good with what he can do with his compared to an offensive lineman limited body weight, right? So I think that those are all elements that'll then set up a deep ball for Kobe Hudson and Javon Baker. And if they can connect and take advantage, that's going to be a good day for UCF offensively.
Yeah, Georgia Tech comes in the 128th ranked rushing defense in the country. This is despite the fact that their rushing offense is 16th at just a shade under 200 yards.
I got to take back one thing, Jeff. I just thought of something. The one instance where they would have seen speed like John Rice Plumlee, former UCF quarterback Tommy Castellanos with BC.
And they lost that game.
They did lose that game
too. So, all right. Kickoff is set for 6:30 p.m. at Ray J. Apparently, we've sold out our allotment of tickets, which is
shocking.
Good. Which is good. Hey, and no team has appeared in the Gasparilla Bowl more than UCF. This will be our, I believe, 6th appearance. And in addition to that, the fact that, this will be is there a 6th appearance? Actually, I wrote this up. I got to double check it because I don't remember.
Well, why?
Yes, it is our 6th appearance in the Gasparilla Bowl and our 6th meeting with Georgia Tech. So,
that's interesting. I'll say this, that the 6th appearance in the Gasparilla, Jeff, what I can tell you is 4 of them are in the top 5 for attendance.
True, including number 1, which was 2021 against Florida, 63,000 people.
The Gasparilla.
Yeah. It is our 6th meeting with Georgia Tech. UCF lost the first 3, but that was in the 90s to George O'Leary, interestingly enough. UCF has won the last
game.
Yeah, and George will be at the game. UCF has won the last 2 meetings in Atlanta in 2020 during the COVID year. And then in 2022 at home. That's the only other time that these two schools have met within the boundaries of the Sunshine State.
Wasn't George O'Leary at that one too?
He was there, yes. And interestingly enough, UCF won that game 27-10, despite posting up a mere 49 total passing yards in that game. And it was after that game that Jeff Collins got fired and Brent Key took over. So that gives you an indication of where Georgia Tech is, at least since that game last season. 6:30 p.m. ESPN will have the call for that. And we will be down there as well, right, Kyle? You're going to be down there, and Nick is going to be down there as well. We're going to have Derek and Brent on the sidelines providing photos from the Gasparilla Bowl as well. We got a pretty good crew out here.
That's right. I'll be leaving here at about noon for a 6 o'clock game.
Yeah. No, it's Friday night. Traffic in Polk County is terrible as usual right after the 429, right? So
I don't think that's early enough. I got to be honest with you.
Yeah, I was going to say, Kyle, you're kind of cutting it close.
I might leave at 11. You're right.
Yeah. Probably the previous day. I mean, you may have to think about it. So, all right, that's UCF against Georgia. And here we go. Okay, here's what I'm going to be interested in. Here's the other part, and we'll wrap on this. Guys who are going to be auditioning for spots at the top of the depth chart for next year.
Ooh.
So,
good question.
We have a bunch of seniors out there, but who is going to be out there saying, you know what? Don't go into the portal at my position, coach. I got this.
I mean, I would come right out and lead with Xavier Townsend to, say, hey, listen, you ain't got to worry about the next number 1. I'm that guy. And I would put Braden Marshall up in there too as a DB.
Yeah.
I think those two are going to be making their campaigns especially Marshall's case. I know Corey Thornton left. I got this, So I think that'll be the biggest element in my mind. I would say also to Walker at the defensive tackle spot, but I think he done already made that case.
Yeah, I think he's all right. I think John Walker's good. So that'll be what we're all set for here at for the Gasparilla Bowl to finish out. I just wanted to bring up one quick little note that Bryson just dropped for us. You guys remember the previous Gasparilla Bowl against Florida? Ryan O'Keefe was the offensive MVP. Ryan announced, yesterday. Of course, he transferred to Boston College as a graduate transfer, suffered a pretty scary injury earlier this year, playing alongside Tommy Castellanos. Ryan announced he is medically retiring from the game of football. And it's, which is sad. It would have been, really fun to see what he could have done at the next level, but we wanted to give a shout out to Ryan, who was outstanding at UCF, and we missed him this year for sure, but he's able to get his graduate degree, pursue his graduate degree at BC, and we really enjoyed watching him play here, and all the best to Ryan in his future endeavors. Hopefully we'll get to see him come back at some sort of alumni events. Hopefully that those will, the more of those we're seeing, the better they get. So congrats to Ryan.
He was an author of one of the best moments of that Gasparilla Bowl. One of the best moments, I would argue, in recent years in UCF, flashing the deuces going in the end zone.
No one heading out. In honor of Otis Anderson, and will be remembered for that and a number of other things, a number of other accomplishments at UCF as well. So congrats to Ryan O'Keefe on a career well done. All right, switching gears, let's talk basketball, and we wanted to start with the men's team. Bryson Turner, they're at 7-3 right now. Had that week off. Week plus a day, 8 days off after that lost to Ole Miss in what was a tremendous basketball game, and handled Maine 74-51. They have their holiday game coming up Thursday against Florida A&M. 2 final non-conference games before conference starts. Florida A&M on the 21st, and then another 8 days off. They played Bethune-Cookman in their last tune-up before another week off, and then Kansas State in Manhattan on January 6th. So plenty of time to rest up here. You got some, let's face it, beatable opponents coming up on the schedule. But I was impressed with what they did against Maine because, they recovered after the loss to Ole Miss, physical game, and they just took it to the Black Bears. But there were some things that you were concerned about in what you wrote on Black and Gold Banneret, correct?
There indeed were, and it mainly came with how they came out in the second half. Jalen Sellers said as much in the post game where he talked about how he really wanted to see the team string 2 halves together, and it seemed like they didn't really do that as well against Maine. Apparently, the goal, from what I heard Shamari Allen talk about, was that they wanted to limit them to 50. They barely missed that goal, Maine getting 51. But they came out of the gate in the first half just firing on all cylinders, 41-18. I mean, it was an absolute massacre. So I think that using these last 2 games will be very crucial to do that, to string these 2 halves together, because that's really something you want to look at going into the lockdown, going into Big 12 going into Big 12 play. And honestly, there's so much else to really love with this team. I mean, you mentioned how they have the over week off games between FAMU, Bethune, and the Big 12 conference play, which is great for resting injured players, i.e. CJ Walker, who Johnny Dawkins said in the postgame is his day to return is getting closer by the day. And Darius Johnson. I'll tell you what, I was really impressed with Darius Johnson in this game. Apparently, Johnny Dawkins said that he was actually injured this week, and they didn't know until right near game time if he was going to go. That's why he didn't start. He didn't start because he didn't practice yesterday. And apparently that's a whole thing that Dawkins sort of does. If you didn't practice the day before to kind of prep for the game, then you're not going to start and play a different role. But even coming off the bench, Darius Johnson was still a leader, going 5 for 6 on the floor, going 4 for 4 from the 3-point line, getting half of the 8 3-point shots that UCF was able to get in this one against Maine. So Maine, by the way, is not necessarily a slouch either. They're 8-5. So for the America, they're a mid-major program for sure. But for a mid-major program, they were doing pretty good coming into this year. So to see them manhandle them like they did in the first half is certainly something you love to see. So I think the biggest concern that I'm getting at coming off of this game is let's try to look at that second half and let's not do that, for the rest of the year. And luckily they have a couple of opportunities against FAMU and Bethune-Cookman to kind of practice doing that before you get into obviously a Big 12 that is firing on all cylinders as well. UCF sitting at number 74 in the net rankings right now, only above Kansas State, Oklahoma State, and West Virginia.
Well, they've got when you talk about FAMU, they've won. They're 2-7 on the year, at least as of right now. They beat Presbyterian and something called Lemoyne Owen College. So they've had losses against Iowa, Iowa State, Florida, Oregon, Nebraska, Creighton. And also they lost to something else called Albany State. I think the bottom line is stay healthy, take care of your business, at least at this point. And I think the one thing I am looking forward to is when CJ Walker comes back. We don't know exactly when that's going to happen. There have been a lot of hints about it. I know CJ has expressed his angst at wanting to get back out there on the floor. And whenever he does return, if it's against FAM, if it's against Bethune, whomever, I fully expect him to come out with come out guns blazing. I think he feels like he has a lot to prove after he missed much of the season last year. Missed the first half of the season this year with various injuries that have been holding him back. And it'll be really nice to have a guy like him back in the 6'8", can leap. He really will help out, especially in the rebounding situation, because you're going to need all the big bodies and big leapers that you can get in the Big 12, if you're going to make this happen. And I think we saw what the formula is as well. In that Ole Miss game, right? Defend. They want to be, I think, for UCF to have, the best shot possible in these games in the conference. It's going to have to be defense. You're not going to outshoot Kansas, and all these other BYU and all these other teams. So you have to defend well, and because defense travels well. We talk about it, and the thing, and I know that we say that where it goes on the road, right? I think that's kind of what they mean by what that cliche, if you will, sort of means. But what it really means in the context of UCF is you don't have to teach as much defense as you do on offense when you have a bunch of new guys. Defense is an attitude, and I think we have the right guys to at least be one of the better defensive teams in the Big 12. Will that translate to how many wins that will translate to? I don't know. Because we're facing all these teams for the first, and a large number of them for the first time.
Yeah, I saw something against Maine that I believe we also saw in the Ole Miss game where UCF seemed to really be practicing the press in there as well. So it seems like to me that is a strategy that Coach Dawkins wants to employ against the Big 12. And look, considering that this is year one, I think that's definitely a strategy you want to try to employ, because you want to take advantage of everything you can possibly to be competitive. And let's not forget, UCF was picked to finish last in conference play this year. So I would argue that anything that this team can manage to not have that happen and just not be last would certainly be a victory at this juncture.
Yeah, I think the other thing that's going to be key also, Bryson, and I'm glad we're seeing these stretches here leading up to conference play where 8 days between Ole Miss and Maine, FAMU, and then 8 days Bethune-Cookman, 8 days until Kansas State. Rest is going to be key, because if you're going to play defense with that level of intensity, it is going to wear on you physically. Your conditioning needs to be top notch, and my hope is that if all goes well, they get their sea legs underneath them in preparation for that grind in conference play, and then let the chips fall. So 7-3 overall. Fingers crossed we get to 9-3 heading into conference play. All right, over to the women's side. The They are doing the opposite. They're not resting all that much. They beat Morgan State yesterday, 67-41. And this was, the second half of a back-to-back. Is that right, Bryson? Because they had Florida Atlantic, I beg your pardon, who handed them their first loss of the year, 59-58 on Monday. UCF comes back, defeats Morgan State in the ugly sweater game. Did you see the coaches? Yes, you saw the coaches yesterday wearing the Christmas sweaters. That was fantastic. Did you see Coach Mester's sweater?
Yes, so we saw.
That was epic.
It was actually talked about right at the end of the press conference, and I think she definitely won the ugly sweater game with the coaching staff right there. I had never seen an ugly Christmas sweater with that kind of basketball hoop prop, but let me tell you, if there is anyone that can pull that off, it is head coach it is head coach Tia Messer. You can hear her full comments about the Christmas sweater and the game and the Morgan State game on the Black and Gold Banneret YouTube channel, where we also uploaded the press conferences after that FAU loss as well. Now, one thing that this back-to-back does do that I do quite like is that it gives UCF a chance to because let's face it, they were going to lose eventually. And Coach Messer even said after the Morgan State game, to get it out of their system. But this Morgan State game basically allowed them to bounce right back right away and not allow them to kind of stew in that FAU loss for very long. And I think it also provided the opportunity to very quickly address what went wrong in that FAU contest, which, in my opinion, by the way, Johnny Dawkins had actually called the three-pointer the great equalizer in basketball. Now it didn't very much apply much to UCF because UCF, again, because obviously the men did what they had to do against Maine. But with FAU, they went 10 of 20 from beyond the arc, while UCF went 2 for 15. That's your difference maker right there on a macro level. Now, it was really close at the end at that game. There was actually, what was interesting is that the game was won on a free throw that UCF fouled FAU on the last shot of the game, and FAU ended up making the one free throw that ended up making the 1 point difference right there. It's a bad way to lose a game. There's no question about that. It's a bad way to lose. So,
and that's the thing that also, UCF out rebounds FAU by 10, but gives up the rebound on the most important possession of the game. And they blew a 6-point lead at the start of the fourth. I think that's the other thing that sticks in their craw, because they were down 4 at the end of one, still close, down 2 at halftime. They went on that. They did their patented third quarter thing, right? Outscored FAU, almost doubled them up in the third, 18-10. And then the fourth, just the bottom fell out. It was really bizarre. And now they had another close call against Campbell last week. Did you sense any parallels between the Campbell game that they escaped with and this game that they did not?
Well, one thing that was mentioned after the FAU game was I think they went away a little bit from the transition in that one. So I think that what ended up happening is they ended up getting away, going away from from the adjustments that they made in over halftime. And I think that's what kind of got them in the position they were against FAU. And I think against Campbell, they just were able to stick to it a little longer, and they were able to get away with it. What's interesting is I've noticed that so goes the 3-point game with this team. Usually so goes the game. It doesn't happen all the time, but you look at the FAU game, FAU 10 of 20, UCF 2 for 15, second worst three-point performance of the season for UCF in that game. Yeah. FAU does really well. FAU wins the game. You go to Morgan State. UCF is 7 of 13 from beyond the arc, one of their better performances of the season there, while Morgan State is 5 of 14 and 5 of 14, little more even keel there. But then of course you go to the regular field goals where UCF outdid them very much there, 23 of 42 for UCF, 16 of 57 for Morgan State. So not only did the defense really improve against Morgan State. But I mean, once you have that offense going, I mean, Caitlin Peterson 5 for 8 from the 3-point line against Morgan State. FAU it was 1 of 4. So I think it's very clear to me. I think that the 3-point game could very well be kind of where this team lives and dies, especially in the Big 12 when you really think about it. Because if the 3-pointer really is like it really is the great equalizer, then that's what's going to give UCF a chance against some of these to keep them in the game against these Big 12 opponents to potentially steal a win. And I think FAU really showed us what can happen when UCF is not very good at the 3-point game and you have an opponent who is.
Yeah.
And ended up ending a program record season opening win streak.
Yeah, I think that's the part that it just sticks in their craw. Because remember, conference play starts prior to New Year's because they play Oklahoma on the 30th.
On the road, too.
On the road. So this is going to happen real quick. Right now, their net is 81. Where are they in 3-pointers? So they don't make as many 3-pointers per game, but they are 41st in the country in 3-point percentage at 36. So, yeah, and here's the thing, Caitlin Peterson, man, she has just been, I mean, I know you talked about, but we just need to take a moment for her because she has been outstanding this year. A tremendous start to the year. She's averaging 19.5 points per game. I can't remember the last time UCF had a player average that close to 20.
She
might have been prior to Coach Abe.
Oh yeah, like I was looking at the record book and coming into these pair of games, I think her average was at about 19.6, which is right on par with one of Tamika Coley's seasons.
Yeah.
So this is definitely some offense that I don't think we've really seen in a while here.
And what's funny about it is like she's done it in spurts with the 3, but she's only hit 27 in 10 games. It's not like she's, Caitlin Clark or Diane Taurasi just bombing out from there, right? But she's shooting 40% from the field, 72% from the line. She just knows how to get her looks at the basket.
Same with Layla Jewett.
Yeah.
I mean, those two have Caitlin Peterson definitely shoots it more often than Layla does, but having both of them together as this dynamic 3-point shooting duo has been a major boon for this women's basketball program, and I think that's going to be a very major key going into the Big 12. But let's also not forget about H.L. Acott as well, because true freshman, and she's doing this. It's majorly impressed on my part. Mm-hmm. She's 3rd in the Big 12 in rebounds and rebounds per game. She is averaging 9.8 rebounds per game. She has been remarkably consistent at dominating the boards over this non-conference stretch, and she's going to need to do that a lot in Big 12 play as well. So definitely got to give her some flowers as well. But Caitlin Peterson, like you said, has really been kind of the star of this season, if there ever was one.
Yeah, last time UCF had a player average 20 points per game in a season, it's only happened twice in school history. Christy Burns, 1985-86 is the school record at 24.6. Tari Phillips, 1990-91. 21.3. After that, yeah, there you go. Tamika Coley in 94, averaged 19.6. Deanne Kraft in 86-87, averaged 19.3. So right now, Caitlin would be the 4th highest single season scoring average. Right now, it's the most since KK Wright in 2018-19 averaged 18 points per game. So it's been a minute.
Yeah.
Now that's not nothing against UCF. They just played more team basketball, but like we're seeing a player who just has, the gift she's been given is she knows how to put the ball in the basket. And and I'm interested in like, it's I don't want to say she does so like quietly, but you look up at it does seem to me like, oh, you look up and you're like, oh yeah, she's kind of got a little bit of a streak now, and you look up and she's got 20 points on the night, and it's like, whoa.
Oh no, yeah, she really does. No, she really does sneak up on you, sneak up on you sometimes. But I think that's also partly because you have this UCF, like you look at the Morgan State game, for example. You have Caitlin Peterson getting 20 points there, but then you have right behind her, you have Layla Jewett, Maya Burns, and Taylor Gibson, and Kyla Nagatu all getting 8. So that's what I think really makes it sneak up on you, is because you also have these other players getting their licks in as well, which kind of helps space out with the stuff that Caitlin normally gets. I mean, let's also not forget that the 3-pointer, at least in the Morgan State game, 5 of her 7 field goals were from 3. So that kind of helps her get a little bit of an edge on the rest of them, where most of them were from 2-point range, aside from Layla Jewett, who made both of her field goals from the 3-point line. So Caitlin Peterson is certainly not like, a Caitlin Clark type, but I think she's almost more like a sneaky Caitlin Clark, Caitlin Clark. Like she sneaks up on you and just knocks it in, finds an open opportunity, knocks it in from 3, and then doesn't elaborate, and then goes and defends.
All right. I tell you, it's been fun. So we'll see how they shape up in their last
the start conference play.
The start of conference play, yeah, December 30th. So 11 days off before they travel out to Norman. 2 p.m. on December 30th, and that game will be on Big 12 Now, ESPN Plus. Next home game will be January 3rd against Oklahoma State.
That's going to be really interesting because both of those schools are actually in the bottom of the Big 12 in defense. Yeah. So that will certainly be a very interesting. Oklahoma is actually right on par with UCF in terms of margin, as far as like point margin goes. UCF and Oklahoma are right near each other in this regard. So I think it'll be a very interesting game to start conference play out there in Norman.
All right, it's going to be a busy spring at Addition Financial Arena, not just because of the first Big 12 games, but also there's a new sport coming to town. Pro Volleyball, the PVF, Pro Volleyball Federation, is starting this January. 7 franchises. One of them here in Orlando, they will play at Addition Financial Arena. That's the Orlando Valkyries. And earlier, this past week, UCF had a player drafted by the PVF and then traded to Orlando, Abby Hansen, of course, who transferred in from Oregon, played 2 seasons at UCF, just recently graduated. And is finishing up her graduate degree at UCF, and she will be playing professional volleyball to boot. So I know this is something that I'm pretty excited about because you know me, I'm a volleyball fan, right, Bryson? We first heard about this league actually when Todd Dagenet announced that he was leaving the college coaching ranks to coach for the Atlanta franchise, the Atlanta Vibe, they are now called. As in PVF. And interestingly enough, UCF will be playing Atlanta and Coach Dagenet Orlando will be playing Coach Dagenet and Atlanta in the home opener for the Valkyries on the 24th. So, or 26th. Thank you, Bryson, on the 26th of January. So that should be pretty interesting indeed as we're getting the band back together. But we were fortunate enough to get a hold of Abby Hansen through our friends with the Valkyries, and Bryson, thanks to you for putting this together. Great interview that we had with Abby. So let's go ahead and give this to you right now. Here's our interview with Abby Hansen, previously of UCF Volleyball, and now, if all goes well, going to be with the Orlando Valkyries of the Pro Volleyball Federation. Here's our interview with Abby Hansen. All right, joining us now on the KnightShift Podcast. She spent the last 2 years at UCF Volleyball, and she is now taking her talents to the professional level. She will play for the Orlando Valkyries. She was drafted and then traded to the hometown team, which will be playing in Addition Financial Arena this fall. Please welcome Abby Hansen to the show.
Thank you
Hey,
so
Abby.
much for having me.
Thanks for spending time with us on the show. How's well, first of all, how's have you graduated yet, or are you graduating soon?
So that's an interesting question. I have graduated twice now, but I will be graduating for the final time this August. It was a 2.5-year program that I'm in. I'm in a Master's of Healthcare Admin. And so
wow.
I'm finishing that up in August. So while I'm playing pro in Orlando, which we'll probably get into that, why I wanted to be in Orlando, right? to finish school. And I'll be, also taking my classes.
All right. Well, congratulations in advance. You've been an outstanding student, as have all of your teammates, and we saw that with the team GPA and stuff. Let me ask you about this foray into pro volleyball. Obviously, we first heard about the new league that was starting up when Todd Dagenet announced that he was retiring from college coaching to coach a team in Atlanta. Then we come to find out there's a team in Orlando that's coming in here, and then all of a sudden you get drafted originally by the Omaha franchise and then traded to Orlando. So tell me how you sort of came to mind and came to finding out about this new pro league, and how you kind of see this opportunity through your eyes.
Absolutely. Yeah. I heard about the league, when Todd had gotten his job, but it was, you had heard about pro volleyball kind of formulating on the side for about 2 years now. I mean, you'd heard about League One, you'd heard about Pro Volleyball Federation, and these two leagues, they've been building up for so long. I was like, all right, who's gonna, get to it first, right? Like get to the finish line. So I've been anticipating it for about 2 years, as long as I've been to UCF. And at first I wasn't sure, in my head, I'm like, okay, well, we'll see where I'm at, like after my 6th year in collegiate volleyball. And then again, kind of around the time Todd got his job, I was like, okay, this could definitely be a possibility. And Todd, I was hearing he was trying to recruit and all this, like he was hopping on it, he was getting it done. He was doing the job that he was asked to do. And I was like, okay, well, this is serious. Like Pro Volleyball Federation is happening. Like it's, the slogan is PVF is real, because we've had this anticipation for so long of pro volleyball being in the United States for women's volleyball. And now it is real. It's happening. And it's so exciting to hear. And then, as I get about, it's like the beginning of season, you're hearing about people signing. People signed in May, but you're hearing about like college students like, oh, there's a draft and especially after going to the brand reveal for Orlando, which I was able to attend. I was very grateful for that, because that's actually where I was able to meet so many people for the Orlando group, for the Orlando staff, the players, the people working behind it, the CEO, Jen Spiker. It was an awesome opportunity. And honestly, that was kind of the pivotal point for me to be like, okay, like, I think I went into this draft that they're talking about.
Yeah.
And so once the draft occurred, I was very excited. I woke up at like 6 a.m. I was like, okay, I know it doesn't start till 8, but like I'm ready to go. And so, yeah, it was an amazing opportunity, and I'm still just, getting the goosebumps, ready to go back in the gym and ready to practice and be the first of whatever this, this big event is going to happen. I'm ready for it.
How do you, so you've met, I imagine, several of your teammates, you've met your coaching staff with the Valkyries. How do you like the group so far? Because, you've been, your travels in volleyball have been far and wide. You were at Oregon, you came to UCF from Oregon. So you understand various different levels of play. When you see the team that you're a part of with Orlando, what do you think of the talent level? What do you think it's going to be like?
I think it's going to make me better. I was able to actually come to a practice and just watch, like just sit back and just view it, because all the practices are open. And I was getting excited. I know Erin Olsen, she was actually hired. So she was on staff last year at UCF. She was hired for Valkyries. And I'm looking at her like, I'm not saying anything, but I'm looking at her like, oh, this is going to be fun. So it just, honestly, I know it's a cheesy word, but I really did get excited. It's going to be the highest level of competition. You're talking, everyone has a couple All-Americans on the team. And so you're going through, I mean, in my perspective, I'm saying, you're like, I got drafted, but man, like, I'm going to be working my butt off, because the people that are going to be cut are the people that get all conference. Like, they're just, there's only 14 people on the active roster. There's two on the practice squad, and about 20 girls to start out with, for most teams. So it's some high competition. And I think that's what pro volleyball did a great job with, starting up the first season with the best of the best. Granted, yes, there may be some people that signed with one League One, but this is where it's at. I mean, I'm just sitting here thinking, like, I found the best opportunity. They found me. So I'm just grateful for that.
Yeah. What do you think about, pro volleyball as a concept here in the States? Because it used to be for years, when, if you were a volleyball player, men's or women's, if you wanted to continue your volleyball career, you had to go overseas.
Right.
And all the challenges that are associated with that, language barriers and political barriers sometimes, and things like that. So what do you think that the advent of pro volleyball here in the United States will mean for the sport in general?
Well, I think you saw it a little bit this year of women's volleyball just breaking records left and right for attendance, for media views. Like, I think what happened this year in collegiate volleyball will have a reflection on what's going to happen for pro volleyball. I think we took a great step this year. And granted, some of that was in our control, some of that wasn't. Some of that was just an effect of women's volleyball growing so much all these years. And we were able to, see them and use media to be like, all right, people, like, this is happening now. So let's everyone else hop on this bandwagon. And I think it's honestly a great thing that hopefully we can also bring into pro volleyball, into the media, into whatever else we could possibly do to allow this to kind of create this grossing revenue that we're looking for, and the attention and the excitement. So I'm just grateful that women's volleyball as a whole has been growing so much, and we're able to see that in the invitation of pro sports here in America. And granted, you talked about the international group. We will be accepting 2 international girls on each team. So for those that maybe know someone who played on an international team, you can still bring that here in the US. So you're getting that international attention as well. And hopefully at one point, you compete internationally here in pro volleyball. So, or I'm just going to start saying PVF. I think we'll all be on the same page with that one. But yeah, so you'll be able to get all of that through it.
You mentioned collegiate volleyball breaking records. While UCF, this is I've been seeing them at least getting a lot of new matches in the top 10 attendance records. I mean, this was the most, I think, over the course of a whole season I've seen people at the venue. What has that been like for you to kind of see that happen? Like, even in your neck of the woods in collegiate volleyball, and how do you think maybe that might translate with the Orlando pro franchise being in Addition Financial Arena right down the street?
Yeah, I mean, going off the page of beating attendance records, I think this was also the first year where the team had the option to decide whether or not to have the next game. We were thinking either BYU or Texas in the venue or in Addition Financial. And I told some old teammates that, and they're like, what? Like, you're getting that many people? So again, it was kind of a cool new experience to start a new tradition. Obviously, we stayed in the venue. We like it there. So I think all of that just comes into play of just creating that new expectation, a higher expectation. And so I'm going back to UCF, the team that's there, the teams that is going to be practicing in the spring. I think it's going to be a little funny to maybe run into them a couple times, considering that the pro Orlando team competes in Addition Financial, like you mentioned. And I'm excited for, both of those worlds being able to collide. And that's the kind of support that we're looking for. And of course, I'll keep in touch with the girls I played with, because I think what's going on at UCF Volleyball will have a direct impact on everything around it, because that school is amazing and those girls are fantastic. So I'm excited to see what they do. I love them all so much, and I can only hope to have the relationships that I had with them this past season into my next group of girls.
Let me ask you about your time at UCF. You spent the 2 years that you've spent here in Orlando, two of the most important seasons in the history of the program. Our last year in the American, first in the Big 12, the transition from one coaching staff under Coach Dagenet to another with Jenny Maurer. Let me ask you first about just the level of competition, because I'm so interested in this for every sport, considering your experience having also played in the Pac-12. What was the jump in competition like from playing in the American to playing in the Big 12?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a hard question. So granted, there was a couple of us that had that experience. I mean, Claudia Dillon transferred from Mizzou. You had Lauren Clark transferring in the past from Penn State. So there was a few of us, although it was a very new team from last year. I mean, keep in mind, we had 5-6 seniors that graduated. That's a big change. And all of those girls were starters. So that was something to take into consideration. Like, hey, I mean, us captains talked, us as a team talked in the beginning of it and saying, all right, this is, this is different. I hope you guys know this. This is going to be harder. What you have seen since you've been committed, it's going to be a whole other level of competition. That's going to be harder on your mentality. You got to have a tougher one. You got to, make sure you're taking care of yourself outside of these games and practices. So it was kind of an eye awakening at the beginning of season. Before we even played a match, we were trying to not warn them, but just get them excited. Like, hey, again, this is new. This is going to be a good thing. And so again, like I said, you saw it in Nebraska. I mean, Nebraska, who competed for the national championship last night, they had a whole new squad from last year, very different group, same with Texas, and they were all young with Nebraska. Texas was, older, but I think I saw another libero comment. This is a whole different group, and that is hard to do. And so this year, granted, the competition on the court was different. I mean, we maintained it, but it's a different group of people. So from the start, we're having to get used to each other. And I think we did a very great job with that. We were honed in. But for competition wise, it was funny to have personally that jump a little bit, like you said, the Pac-12, AAC, Big 12. And I'm like, okay, I'm back in it. I'm ready. But I think given that, AAC wasn't necessarily a Power 5, didn't really have an effect on the standard that we set for ourselves in the gym. And you were able to see that by, getting, I think we broke the record not broke the record, but personal best for getting the NCAA tournament last year. So I think, you were able to see that in the postseason for us a little bit. And again, I'm just excited to take all that, see the different play, and carry it on to pro volleyball, where it's going to be, the best of the best. And I can only hope that all my experience kind of got me here. And if I'm struggling, then I know how to handle a little adversity.
Speaking of the jump from the American to the Big 12, you also kind of had a bit of a mini jump going during conference season. You got, winning those first 7, then going up against, national champion level contenders throughout the rest of the season. Now that you have that first Big 12 season behind you, what do you kind of look back on that in terms of looking back on things that maybe seem more clear to you with hindsight?
Like, are you talking about the competition in the second half of the season and how that'll impact now?
In the Big 12, just in the Big 12 in general.
Yeah, I think, championships are born on Sundays. And I think there were a couple, second games there that we got a little, I call it a tight sphinx. Like we got a little tight. And so always remember to play loose. I think a lot of your personality and a lot of who you are as a person comes out later in the season when things get hard, when you face adversity. And I think a lot of that kind of resonated with me. Okay, how can I do my best to maintain throughout the season? How can I seek those around me and honestly just give them a chance to be open with me, give them a chance, like as a leader or whatever my role is on the team, how can I do better, how can I be the best version of myself? And I think we got a lot of that this season from this group, and I hope to carry that on to the next team.
I know I keep coming back to this, but your time in Oregon, you played in the Pac-12, which is a mecca of volleyball, and we're seeing that conference go away, essentially, not completely, but and the Big 12 is benefiting from that partially, but there's also going to be, it's going to be a very geographically spread conference, and we get the whole football side of this, but Bryson and all of us here, we all looked at the schedule that you guys played in the Big 12, where you had to play like those double headers, sometimes at home, sometimes on the road. And we're like, this is weird. Like this doesn't, it's imbalanced. It doesn't seem right. How do you feel, having played in the Pac-12 and now seeing where the scheduling is going with all the conference movement? How do you feel about how all this movement is shaping up for volleyball in particular? Because you guys have to travel so much more, so much farther in such a shorter period of time. I got the feeling that by the end of the season, you guys were gassed, not just from the level of competition that you guys are playing, but just from the travel, which was nuts. Something's wrong here. What do you think should be done? Should anything be done?
Well, I think it's tough, because I think they were trying their best to balance out the fact that people don't really want to play that double header that you were referring to, playing the same team back to back, because you want to be able to compare how far you've come by playing the same team at the beginning of season and then mid-season, or mid-season, end of season. And that compared to the excessive travel that would come with playing one team on a Friday and one team on a Sunday. So I think they were trying their best to mediate it, because I can't imagine, say this year we had to go to BYU and they did not come to us, and we were paired with, let's say, Texas, because that was kind of they were around the same time of year. That's a lot of travel. So it's also missing a lot of school, because it's like the first semester for those freshmen. That's their first semester. So you have all those, other challenges that you face as, being a collegiate athlete. But then this wonky, travel distance, it's tough. I really don't have an answer. That it's more of a hypothetical question, if anything, because it's a tough ask for a lot of younger girls, but at the same time, what you're there for, I think, is my only kind of answer to it. You're there to compete. Yes, it's hard, but you're doing it together. And it's a toss up between what kind of method you want to go with. But I think it is, in hindsight, a good opportunity to play the tough competition. Our schedule was nice this year because it got progressively harder. In my opinion, that's kind of cool, because you're getting progressively better throughout season. So you have that potential to go beat those tough teams when you're, feeling good, maybe a little tired, but feeling good. So I as of what their schedule looks like next year, I don't know. I know they'll probably be going to BYU at some point, which will be a long flight, maybe a couple stops.
Colorado too, right? Colorado, Utah.
Colorado. I was going to say, same with the Pac-12. So you have Oregon that might be headed God knows where. So I think it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. And at the end of the day, maybe it just adds a little toughness. I don't know. But I also think it is important to consider the athlete in all of those decisions. So yeah. Tough question.
Speaking of those freshmen you mentioned, you had the redshirt freshman Abby Shomers and then true freshman Ava Armour get a really solid amount of playing time over the course of this season. You mentioned how the freshmen deal with that sort of travel. How would you say that Abby and Ava and the other newer faces on the team dealt with this new collegiate volleyball reality that they're going to be kind of contending with over the course of their collegiate career?
Yeah, I think what was really special about this group in the past season was they were not afraid to ask questions, and they were not afraid to speak what was on their mind. And that made life so much easier for the rest of us. And we established, we always have team rules, we have team expectations that we go through before we start season. And so just check-ins like, we're on the bus and, someone forgot their ID before we leave for the airport. All right, well, it's a good thing we did our ID check. So go get that ID of yours so we can hop on a plane in about 3 hours. So yes, stuff like that did happen. And I'm sure, you're feeling embarrassed as a freshman or you're feeling nervous, but at the end of the day, no harm, no foul. I mean, we had everything we needed. We were ready to go on that plane. And, with the longer travel at times, I think we were, it was just the thought of we were all in it together. And I think, they knew that there were us older girls on the team, or even just people that are used to this. I mean, Abby did a great job. Abby handled everything like a pro. She, 1 year and you know what's going on. So for her, I was never worried about her, but for the freshmen, all the little things, they did a great job. They always handled their business. So there was never yelling at them for anything. But it was also, it was cool to see them really just take ownership of little things and become progressively better. So yeah.
Tell us about the transition from Coach Dagenet to Coach Jenny, because, even though Jenny was an assistant, your first year here at UCF, there's still a move. You also changed over assistant coaches. Jenny hired 2 new assistants when she got promoted. The personality of the team changed. Compare and contrast these 2 seasons from your perspective as a player playing for those 2 different coaching staffs?
Absolutely. Yeah, I want to preface it with the fact that when Todd left, I'm sitting here and I'm like, okay, like this will be a change. Like I knew the guy. Like I'm obviously I was hoping they would promote within staff, because there was a moment where they said they won it, and I'm like, please do. So I'm sitting here, I'm like, okay, another head coach change. I'm like, wait a minute, Abby, you've had a lot of head coach changes. So I sit back and I start counting from the moment I committed to ASU prior, and then
Right.
I went to USC actually, and then I went to Oregon, and then I went to UCF. So just by that, I have 4 different head coaches. But each time I went to school, they changed their head coach, with the exception of Oregon. So I've had 7 head coaches in my 6 years. So we're almost on a 1-to-1 ratio at this point. And
Who's the coach this year, Abby?
yeah, right. No, luckily I know Amy's my girl, so we're good there. But yeah, we were shocked, to say the least. And I think at first no one said a word with Todd announcing he was leaving, because we were just, all in shock. We were all handling it differently. People that were on scholarship, they were asking the honest questions of, hey, is my scholarship still good? And I think that's one thing that Jenny did a great job with. She honored everyone's scholarship. If there was questions, her door was open, and you could go to her and you can ask anything. That's another nice thing that Jenny did, is you can talk to her, and if she didn't know, she was going to say she didn't know, and she would be willing to talk though. So it was nice to always hear from her. And then with the assistant coaches, they were also really great this season. I think she did a great job hiring them, tons of talent, great personalities. I think for next year, it'll be really great though, for them to form that, not cohesion, because they all get to know, like they all get along really well, but know what each one's role is, considering, it was new. And sometimes you just got to roll with the punches, and you just got to get through season and keep pushing and just be there for your players. And I think they will be taking time to get to know, like, hey, all right, you're going to be in offense, you're going to be defense. When we do breakouts, you're going to be with the middles. Just all those little details that sometimes you don't have time to work out when they come on our Europe trip, which also was really great timing, because we got to meet them for our Europe trip in the summer. So I think, again, that Europe trip was a blessing. I'm very honored to be able to have gone there, but it was also beneficial for having a new staff, for getting to know them, getting a feel of, okay, how is this going to work out for the season? What are their, values? Because in all reality, we had Jenny last year, but, Brian was kind of the one running a lot of things. And so this was Jenny's opportunity to really seize the day and take over. And she did exactly that. So those are kind of the pros and cons. I kind of maybe did some pros and cons, but that was my perspective, my overview of the whole situation. And looking forward to see, how it progresses next year and how everything improves.
Well, speaking of next year, not only did you graduate, but also your fellow middle, Claudia Dillon. So while this year's team had to deal with sort of a transition on the hitter side of things with a couple of newer hitters, you now have this next year's team that will have to kind of replace their middle blocking units. So what was it like kind of working with the younger middles this season to prepare them for that? And then what do you think that the next year's middles will have to do in order to succeed at this level of Big 12 competition that you got to experience?
I think Claudia and I loved working with the other middles. Obviously, we knew the focus was us. We had been in that situation prior. I redshirted as a freshman, didn't play much as a sophomore. So I knew that kind of feeling where you're like, all right, well, I'm redshirting, I'm on the other side. Like, how much coaching am I going to receive? Like, all those little things that kind of travel through your mind throughout season. So we both had those perspectives. So we're like, all right, we're not going to leave these guys hanging. And it was so easy to bother them, to coach them, to love on them, all of the above. And I think both Sasha and Megan, great potential. Sasha was actually a right side before coming in here. She played right side during club. And so she got a little sneak peek of that in the end. And I'm like, dang, this girl's a beast on the right side. So, she may be a middle, she may be a right side, I don't know, but she is a talented young woman, and I am so excited to watch her play next year. And I think, both of them got the gist. And I think there were like little moments where Claudia and I are on the sideline, taking a water break or something, we're watching them on the court though, and we're honed in on what they're doing and trying to give them like, hey, all right, make sure your second step is big going out to that right side block. Hey, when you're transitioning, you got to get off fast. You can't be watching the ball the whole time. But when you're approaching, you got to at least look at it one time, So all those little bits and pieces and just yelling it across the court, they were always very receptive of it. And it was really kind of cute to see how well they improved throughout season and how much they wanted it to get better. And they took every piece of advice we gave them, every piece the coaches gave them. So, I mean, they're great learners. So sometimes that's all you can ask for, and they're going to do well.
You mentioned how you're going to be able to watch them. And I remember you said at the top that you were going to be your master's program runs through August or like in the fall or something like that. So you're able to be around and kind of see some of that happen because of being in Orlando. So I know you mentioned how this PVF thing has kind of been brewing for the past 2 years and you've been hearing about it, but what does it mean to you to have gone through that and to now actually be able to play professional volleyball in the United States and in states, not only stay within the same country, but within the same city that you went to college?
I think I'm one of few that are actually getting to stay in the same city that they're currently in. So very fortunate because I already have a house. I have a dog. I don't know if you've seen my golden retriever running around campus. That's him. Sorry about it. But I'm very.
No one's ever going to apologize. No, you don't have to apologize
for a golden retriever.
No, you don't have to do
He's
that.
a cutie, so if you see him, you can take him. But I'm feeling very fortunate. I think it's going to make my life easier. I fly out on January 1st. Everyone else is flying in January 2nd, but they're flying in to move in. And I'm like, all right, well, let me know if you need anything. I can drop us some coffee. And I'm just, again, the word I would find is very fortunate, very just anxious almost to get in the gym again. It's been about a month. And meet a new group of girls, and just being able to be a part of all the firsts and take that with a chip on my shoulder, no matter what my role ends up being, and just honestly being able to work hard the next couple of weeks. I still technically have to make cuts and try out. I was drafted, but they still can make cuts. So going in humble with that idea and ready to just be a part of this cool new adventure and the first pro volleyball league. I think just enough of that is really cool to go in with alone.
Well, you get started on Friday, January 26th against the Atlanta vibe and coach casual.
Yes.
So what's it like to kind of anticipate that first matchup and you get to kind of see a familiar face on the other side, on the other court side?
Well, so I don't know if you know, but so Todd is the head coach, but Brian, my old assistant coach, is the assistant coach.
That's right. Yeah. Brian's over there too.
It's a 2-in-1. I love it. And it's like everything else. I'm just ready to compete. I'm ready to go in. Of course, it'll be nice and give them a hug and see them. It's like, you get to the point where you play 6 years of collegiate volleyball and you're going to know at least one person on every team. So it's that good feeling where it's the familiarity. Sometimes for me, it's almost a sense of relaxation. I'm like, oh, I know them. Like, I'm still going to compete, but I know these guys. This is good. So that's kind of how I see it. Yeah.
You got to make sure that you throw off their scouting report though, don't you?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I remember us playing Wake Forest in preseason this year, and I know half the team so Wake Forest, I was recruited and I almost transferred there instead of UCF. And so I know their entire coaching staff, half their team. And it was funny because I'm sitting in row 2 and I'm like ready, like they're about to serve the ball. And I hear number 9's going to run a slide. And I just look at the coach and I'm like, okay, it's fine. Go up and I run the slide and I get the kill. And he's like, oh, okay. He just walks back to his seat.
Well,
so
whatever we ran on that didn't work.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, well, yes, I do run the slide. Thank you.
What do we do now?
Yeah, I'll run a couple other plays. But I love stuff like that. I love the smack talk. I love getting into it. So when I see a familiar face and they're saying something like that, or even smack talk, and I'm like, okay, perfect. I'll just smile.
Nothing's more fun. It doesn't matter what sport you play at whatever level. Nothing's more fun than when someone knows what's coming and you're going to bring it to them and you beat them anyway, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's nothing more fun than that.
Well, and sometimes when you see 2 blocks up, you're like, oh, I can also tip. So
yeah. Let me ask you this. This is the last couple questions here. What is your advice for next year's UCF team playing in year 2 in the Big 12? 4 new teams coming in. If you sat them all down, what would be your piece of advice to them?
So I was actually asked this question when we did our little closing remarks for UCF senior night. They brought out that video that we were able to film in the locker room. And I do remember I was kind of in a blur. I was like, oh, this is so exciting. And, all those nerves. But I did say, be your authentic self, be your unapologetically you. So I do stand by that part. And what I mean by that is just like, for me, if someone's calling out my scouting report on the scouting report on myself, I'm still going to do what I do best. That's not going to stop me from anything. Yes, maybe I'll have that little chip in my shoulder. I'll kind of remember it in the back of my head, but I'm still going to go out. I'm not going to change any of my, what I've been working hard in the practice room for, what I've been, trying to be better at. None of that's going to change. I'm just going to stick with my own scouting report. I'm going to go at them. And then I'd say another piece is just, go out there, go have fun. I was watching the national championship last night and I kept reading I always try to read lips and I'm like, oh, what are they saying? And all of them were like, let's have fun. Let's go do this, go compete, go have fun. And I think sometimes we forget you can do both. You can be having fun and, have, the angst in you and the fiery competition. You can do both. So I'd say just keep those up and everything else will come with. You can't really give any coaching advice at this point. All those little things will come. And so those are kind of the non-tangibles, I guess you could say, that I would give.
All right. Abby Hansen joining us here on the KnightShift Podcast. Abby, we've had a joy watching you these past 2 years. We're so glad that you chose to come here. And you've been a really, really bright light on, in the program, and we're excited that we get to see you for a little bit longer here too with the Valkyries. So just give us a quick recap. Tell us when we're going to see you, hopefully on the floor at Addition Financial Arena.
Yes, you will see me end of January versus Atlanta Vibe in the Addition Financial Arena. Again, we'll practice in Top Select throughout that month and we'll be ready to go. So come fired up and come cheer us on.
All right. So yeah, Friday, January 26th, 7 p.m. You play
Yes.
Atlanta, and then February 10th against Las Vegas. There's 7 teams in the league: Atlanta, Las Vegas, Columbus, Omaha, Grand Rapids, San Diego, and Orlando. And it'll be a lot of fun. And by the way, I did notice also one of your teammates with the Valkyries, Audi Cruz. I actually watched her play when she was at the University of Florida back in the day. She was a tremendous talent there. So, if you're a fan of volleyball in the state of Florida, regardless of what school you're a fan of, if it's UCF or someone else, who shall remain nameless, you'll be sure to get your fill of volleyball at Addition Financial Arena as the Pro Volleyball Federation fires up for the first time this January. Abby Hansen, thank you so much for joining us. All the best. Good luck. Good luck in the tryouts. Good luck in the preseason. We look forward to seeing you on the floor in a little bit of a month, but in a little bit more than a month. But until then, have a great, great holiday.
Thank you. You guys as well. So good seeing your faces again. And I'll see you soon.
All right. We'll see you, Abby. Thanks.
Take care.
All right. Thanks to Abby Hansen, and thanks to the staff at the Valkyries for helping us out on that as well. I'm looking forward to seeing Addition Financial Arena decked out in the blue for the Valkyries. I like their branding that they put together. That was really nice. All right. A little note from MLS real quick, Bryson. Anderson Rosa was drafted in the MLS Super Draft. 3 straight years now for UCF going in the Super Draft, right?
Yes, Anderson Rosa got selected by the Colorado Rapids in the 14th pick of the second round of the 2024 MLS Super Draft. And yes, third year in a row after Nick Taylor and Giannis Learman in 2022, and then Gino Vivi getting selected in the first round last year. Certainly a blow for a back line that's going to need a lot of turnover coming into next year, but Anderson Rosa has been an all-conference selection all 4 years at UCF. So I think if there's anybody in this year's senior class that deserved to be selected in this draft, if there had to be one, even though I think there were multiple, it's definitely him.
Yeah, congrats to Anderson, who was a team captain last year, and really enjoyed watching him play. It was an excellent leader for the team, but also just like he was, like you said, Bryson, really solid on that back line. All right, this is our last regular show. We will have a Night Shift Live after the bowl game, win or lose, but this is our last regular show together. Wish we could get Elo in on this, but he would probably say something ridiculous. But with the Christmas holiday upon us, I wanted to ask you guys, we're halfway through our first year in the Big 12. There's some good things obviously coming down the pike at UCF in the next few years. Let's open it up and just talk like from the 30,000 foot view. What is your number one thing on your UCF athletics Christmas list coming up in the next year or two? So Kyle, I want to start with you here. If you were putting together a Christmas list for UCF, what would be on
the lazy river? No, listen, for my money, I make that joke about the lazy river, but the facilities upgrades that are necessary for the other sports, especially basketball, have to be top on the list, right? Especially if you're in a world where you're in the Big 12 doing Big 12 things. Nick Porcelli does not want to watch you get blown out a bazillion times as he's there covering men's basketball in the Big 12, okay? That is not the life that we're looking for. And the way you prevent that from happening is you have facilities that you can make better the players with, and also attract other players in a world where transfer portal first time, huh? So with all that in mind, I think that's clearly in my mind the biggest upgrade. Also in upgrading the basketball facilities, you kill 2 birds with 1 stone by upgrading for the women as well, generally speaking there too. The same maybe apply to things like sports like soccer and such like that, but I think for me personally, I'd go with basketball first.
Okay, bump up the basketball. All right, Nick, go for it. What do you got?
You know what? I know you said you wish Elo was here. I'll throw him a bone. Let's upgrade softballs. Let's upload the softball facilities a little bit. They've won enough. They earned it. And also, I'm sick and
They
tired of
pull more revenue than basketball.
That's not ridiculous. That's and that is on the docket too, by the way, reportedly.
Allegedly.
I'm just sick and tired of going to that stadium and then having to sit on the stairs because there's no seating room. That's all I want. Just add a little extra seating. That's all
I will
say.
still be repeating the time that from sitting outside covering the NCAA regional there, getting that sunburn so bad that I ended up registering a fever afterwards. I will repeat that story until the day I die.
Okay, that was a self-inflicted problem, though.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
Why? It's facing the sun. Wait, I have to sit outside.
Sunscreen, man. It's 2023.
You can control that.
Right.
Jeez.
Like we warned you about this.
Anyway, what was Christmas list? This one's more selfish. I said this in the article that we posted on blackandgoldbannerhead.com back in October. Yep. Thank you. This is personal. Please fix the stadium Wi-Fi at UCF. I'm sick and tired of going to games and not being able to connect to anyone. Just fix it.
Specifically, Addition Financial Arena.
Yeah, please do that. That'd be very nice.
And let's get more than AT&T at the stadium too, because I know the AT&T has that antenna there now, which great for AT&T users. Happy that you have something to be proud about with that one. But definitely getting some more antennas there, so that way other people can also access the internet during games would definitely be a good help as well.
Yeah.
And then finally,
just
one more thing. Just beat Georgia Tech. I want to end this football season on a happy note. Please beat Georgia Tech.
That's gonna happen before Christmas, Nick. So you're asking for
an early Christmas gift. I don't care.
Yeah.
An early Christmas gift.
Bryson, what do you got?
So let's see. If we're going to talk about like a Christmas list in the sense of what we want for Christmas that's coming in like 5 days, let the two specific things. One, a really good transfer engine, whether it's a quarterback or at defense or something like that, some kind of big transfer like KJ Jefferson. I know I've been hearing the rounds on him. That would certainly make for a fun little Christmas gift right there. Especially after watching him in person when he visited when he visited the Swamp in Florida. I was there visiting my brother and watching him play. I'm like, he would actually, and I'm thinking when I saw him in the portal, I was like, he would be pretty good for UCF. And then the second thing would be Kingdom NIL, as much money as they can get, because man, I mean, in the era of college football that we are in now, you need it. So I think as far as immediate stuff, it would be a good high profile transfer, or at least one that is the most effective possible, and then NIL money. As far as long term, I mentioned the Wi-Fi and the bounce house, but if I had to pick one more, I would probably have to echo the men's soccer only stadium. I am very excited.
Oh, men's and women's, you mean though, right?
For both men's and women's soccer, like, because I seeing those renderings in there, like it would be really cool to have that soccer only environment there, and considering the history that men's and women's soccer have both provided for UCF. I mean, women's soccer, of course, the great Michelle Akers play here. That U.S. women's national team, so people have had their starts here, and then now men's soccer, has really gotten on a roll in recent years under Scott Calabrese, and is the first UCF team to reach number one in the nation. So I really feel like the soccer programs have really paid their dues over the last few years, over their existence, and I feel like they deserve to finally get their facility all to themselves. And that's not a diss to track either, because they definitely deserve their own facility too. But that would be like a whole other thing that could definitely be a little further off than just a men's soccer only, or a soccer only facility.
I have a couple of things that I am asking Santa for here. Number one, and these are far-fetched, but we'll start with the least far-fetched of them. I think I'd like a men's track and field team at UCF.
I second that.
Men's, yeah, I know you do, Nick, as a cross-country runner yourself. A men's track and field and cross-country team. I think UCF would be extremely competitive right out the gate in the Big 12 in track and field, and it would also benefit the football program. Because as it has at plenty of other schools, I think it would be a real force multiplier for UCF. So I'm hoping that someone comes in and says, let's go ahead and start this, and then it happens sooner rather than later.
Well, wouldn't the Big 12 money kicking in certainly help open up the potential fund?
It might, but we don't know. Don't know.
Once that money happens, just think of it. Jeff's not even through his list yet, and all these entities that are competing for that Humpy Bumpy.
Yeah. And the thing is, to start a new program, you really need a donor to step up and actually start it, right? Mm-hmm. In order to sort of bankroll the scholarships and things like that, and the facilities.
Get your couch cushions.
Yeah. No. Well, I mean, we're all playing Powerball. I mean,
hey, I'll get more than money. You want players? I run every day. Screw it. I'll do it.
We'll do it. Let's get it started. So I'm hoping that one day somebody dives in and somehow UCF says, you know what, we're going to do men's track here too. And by the way, everybody who said, well, what about Title IX? UCF actually has right now more female athletes than male athletes, and more opportunities for female sports than men's sports. They're actually Title IX in reverse, at least as of right now. Remember, it's not the number of scholarships, it's not the number of roster spots, it's equal opportunity. And there's a certain formula that goes into that. It's not as cut and dried as the number of scholarships, the number of athletes, the number of sports, or whatever. UCF actually can afford to add a men's sport, and track and field, I think, would be, like I said, a force multiplier, not just for the prestige of the program in general, but also for other programs as well, notably football. The other thing, and this won't cost us a dime. I really want the powers that be at Florida State University to pull the pin on the grenade, toss it into the ACC's boardroom, and just leave. and just inject more conference realignment chaos into this situation, because the Big 12 conference stands to benefit mightily from that. I think we are approaching a time where we're going to see not so much conferences as much as we're going to see leagues. The Big 12 has fulfilled what Brett Yormark said he would do about a year ago, when he said they would expand west with the additions of Arizona State, Colorado, and Utah. And now there is an opening I think there's an opening to expand east and turn this into a 20 to possibly 22, 24 team super league and steal the Big 10 and SEC's thunder here. The most likely way to do that is if the ACC somehow falls apart. And I would love to see the likes of possibly Florida State, Syracuse, Pitt, Georgia Tech, North Carolina come over to the Big 12. Maybe I don't know, maybe Duke, maybe NC State. I don't know. Maybe Clemson might be in them. I mean, I think the SEC, I think the most likely situation would be the SEC springs for Florida State and Clemson. But I would love to see a good 4 or 6 ACC schools pop on over, and we'll have like an East-West sort of league, if you will,
right?
To combat what everyone thinks is the monopoly that is the SEC and the Big Ten. I just think that would be a blast.
Well,
I mean, first of all, imploding the ACC.
One Piece. I want problems.
Imploding the ACC is something I have been calling for some time. So I have no doubt that I feel every bit of what you're saying, Jeff Sharon, and I hope Santa delivers on that. However, how good that may or may not be for the Big 12 is a fascinating question. The only thing I worry about is, has the money bottomed out? Can we continue to expect media outlets to finance this at the clip that they're going right now?
That's a great question.
And some of the blue bloods, when they go to get reevaluated after all this explosion, may find themselves shockingly disappointed. And the first shot across the bow, as you say, is FSU, noting, why is UCF getting more than us here? Like that's the first hint that if the FSU is proclaiming that, what about BC, Wake Forest, all these others that are lesser football powers? And while they may be at least mid-level in basketball and have had great success in their programs in basketball, can they hold the valuation that bringing them into a conference would hold? It's a very interesting concept, but
yeah.
Now that I'm thinking about it, because I haven't seen them connected with the SEC or the Big Ten, but wouldn't Brett Yormark just jump at the prospect of getting Duke, or would Duke seem more like a Big Ten?
I don't know.
What's your timeline
talking
on
about
that happening? Do you mean like do you think that FSU should pull the pin as soon as possible, or are we talking more like a few years from now, or even in the 2030s when the media rights deal?
Well, there are reports that FSU is fuming mad about being left out of the college football playoff, and they believe that that part of the reason is because they're in the ACC. Now, it seems a little, on the face of it, it seems a little brutish, if you will, to be like, we didn't get in because we're in the ACC. We need to go to the SEC right now. But this seed was planted a while ago.
yes,
And they keep making more noise about it, which, and I think where there's smoke, there's fire. I don't know I don't know who's going to do it. I don't know when it's going to happen. I don't know how it would break down. I just want the chaos to happen and let the chips fall where they may, because I think there might be a few really nice little chips dropping into the Big 12's lap.
And to your point, Jeff, there have been reports that other programs, other schools, other organizations are joining FSU in the movement, shall we say?
Mm-hmm. In the movement of discord in the ACC. Go ahead, Bryson.
Well, let's not forget that now the ACC, that if this move comes maybe a few years from now, we also have to factor in the likes of Cal, Stanford, and SMU into those equations as well.
Blue bloods that are about to get devaluated, Bryson.
Oh, and then we also may very well find out who, exactly what Notre Dame's value is, because Notre Dame, of course, is a associate member of the ACC in all sports except for football, and has a special sweetheart agreement with the ACC regarding its football scheduling, even though they remain independent in that sport. Yes. Quote, independent, end quote. I just think that is going, like I said, it's the scene in Community where Joel McHale like dives out of the room and then the paintballs explode. You know what I'm talking about? Any Community fans out there? I think y'all know.
I need to watch that show.
It's fantastic television. It's just that's going to be the trigger that ignites. We thought that the Pac-12 going away is going to be a big one, and I still think that situation is not entirely over with yet.
Certainly not.
And we know that the courts also believe that right now. We'll be following that, right? As we move forward with what happens with Washington State and Oregon State, and do they have control of the Pac-12 brand? But anyway. The ACC, and then what I think it will start is it will also ignite a conversation about what Chip Kelly talked about earlier this week, which is, there's
football out.
Right. There is football, and then there are other sports. And does it make economic sense? And, for the volleyball team to have to play, for UCF volleyball to travel out to Boulder when we could separate it out and have like a southeastern geographic conference for non-football sports. I think that may be something that we look at as we approach the 2030s. All right.
There, your precious USF games, UCF fans. All right.
Thanks again to you for listening throughout this time. I had to update our feeds, so I apologize if you get bombarded with a few shows. For some reason, our feed stopped working, so I refreshed them, and we should be working once again. Thanks again to all of our staff here at Night Shift and Black and Gold Banneret. You guys have been great, carried me through an incredible year, carried all of us through a hell of a year. And I'm so thankful to you guys for everything that you've done. All of us who, were not here, our spectacular photographers, Brenna Johnson, Noah Goldberg, Derek Warden, Chris Seifert, folks, they're the best. They are the best. Thank you to Bryson and Nick for all the work that you did. Thank you to Drew, Statboy Drew, our erstwhile partner, Statboy Drew, for all the hard work that he did for us. Kyle, thank you.
Hey, I didn't carry you. I'm just glad I can hug you without you being in pain this year. Right?
I know. Yes. Thanks, of course, to Elo, who is not here with us, for all of his hard work as well. And the hardest working man in UCF show business right now. All of our guests, all the sports information and sports communication staff at UCF have kept us in line and helped us out in so many different ways. Everyone who has helped us along the way this year, thank you so much. We will see you Friday night, post-game, Gasparilla Bowl, UCF against Georgia Tech. For all of us at Black and Gold Banneret and Night Shift, I'm Jeff Sharon saying happy holidays, Merry Christmas. We shall see you down the road. Go Knights, charge on. We'll see you Friday night.